What's going on, y'all? Today I'm going to show you the newest member of my arsenal. This is an M4. This is similar to what we used back in basic training in Texas. We used M4A1s. It's an AR style platform, and today I'm just going to go over some of the basics about it. So this M4A1, produced by Bushmaster, it shoots these. This is 5.56, also known as 223 Remington. Today I have these Federal American Eagle 55 grain rounds. To start off today's video, this, if you don't know, is a magazine. The rounds go in the magazine like so. There is a little diagram on the magazine if you get confused on which way the bullets face. This is a 10 round magazine, and the magazine goes into the chamber like so. Sometimes you can give it a little tap to make sure it's seated correctly, and once the magazine is in the magazine well, you'll be able to see the rounds right here. And this is a little harder to see. I'm going to take my magazine out real quick, which I'll also go over. Inside you can see the chamber right here. That's important to make sure that your chamber is clear when you're not planning on shooting your rifle, you're planning on storing it. Always good to make sure that chamber is clear. Just give it a good visual look. I can see there's no rounds in it. You know your gun's clear. So once again, I'll demonstrate. You put the magazine in the magazine well, give it a little tap, and you can see the rounds are seated there in the magazine well, but they're not in the chamber yet. And then to take your magazine out, you depress this button here, and your magazine falls out. Next up, if I turn the rifle around, you can see this paddle here, and when you press this, it sends your bolt forward. That's what makes a round go into the chamber. This is the chamber, this is the bolt, this is the magazine well. When you press this paddle, it sends the bolt forward past the magazine well, catching a bullet, sending it into the chamber. Once it's in the chamber, you're ready to fire. The next thing to note on this side of the rifle, at the very bottom of this paddle, there's a little button right here. And what this button does is it is your chamber catch, your bolt catch, I mean. So you depress that button when you pull the charging handle back, and that's what locks your bolt back. Right now, my bolt is locked back. So let me show you real quick. If I depress this paddle, this is what it looks like. And now if I want to lock the bolt back, I'm going to press this little button right here and pull back on the charging handle. Send my charging handle forward, and now the bolt is locked back, and my finger is on that button. If I send the bolt forward, and then my hand is not going to be on the button, and I make the charging handle go back, the bolt just goes forward because I wasn't holding that button. You have to hold that button in order to lock the bolt back. So that moves us on very nicely to the next part of the rifle, which is the charging handle. Again, as you can see, the magazine is out of the gun. I can see there's no round in the chamber, and the magazine well is empty. The next part of this rifle is the charging handle right here. It's a little T handle. It has this little button that you depress, and that lets you take this back. When I tear apart the gun, you'll be able to see that this T handle, it's called a charging handle. The charging handle physically pulls that bolt back. It depresses the buffer spring that forces the bolt forward, so it depresses that, allows you to bring the bolt back and lock it into place with that button. Next up, this is the most important part, arguably, to the gun, is the safety. So right now, the gun is on safe. As you can see, or maybe not very well see, there's a little diagram here of a bullet with a line through it. That means you cannot fire. It is on safe. As we've demonstrated, there is nothing in the chamber, nothing in the magazine well. If I was to try to pull the trigger, because it's on safe, it will not go. If I had it on fire, then again, my gun is still empty. You can pull it, nothing happens. Magazine's not in it, no bullets are in it, the bolt is back, so it's not even going to click. If I were to send the bolt forward, and right now I can see there's no bullet in the chamber, there's no bullet in the magazine well, and pull the trigger, just a little click. That's with the gun on fire. So now I'm going to put my finger on the button, take the charging handle, lock the bolt back with my finger on the button, I can get the M4 back on safe. So this gun on this side, let's get it back on fire real quick. You can see that there's 2 bullets. My firearm does not have the fun switch. It cannot go full auto. It cannot go for 2-round burst or 3-round burst. It can't burst at all. It can just do single fire and safe. Next up, we have the dust cover. This dust cover is just that if you're traversing land with your rifle, you can flip that up and close it, and that keeps dust and debris from getting in your rifle. But if you send the bolt forward, that kicks your dust cover open, and then I can click it again. And if I have my finger on the button and pull back the charging handle, that will also kick it back open. This dust cover covers up where your rounds are ejected, so the brass comes out to my right, which does make it a little difficult as a lefty shooter, since it goes, and sometimes it likes to go up and over and into my hoodie, so that's always a fun time. The next thing that I will talk about is the adjust, or not the adjust, the assist right here. And I don't have a great understanding of what that does. My main understanding is that if your bolt is forward and a round isn't totally seated, you can press the assist and it'll help seat the round into the chamber. Next up, I'll talk about the sights. So there's a front sight post and a rear sight post. You can look up pictures of this. I don't think you're going to be able to see it very well. On this configuration of this rifle, I have the carry handle option, which not all of these come with. Some of them just come with the rail, and you can put like a scope or a red dot or some kind of optic on it. But being this kind of optic configuration, it has this little back sight which you can adjust using this knob here, which physically moves the sight left and right. And then you can adjust the up and down with this knob right here, which I'm not sure how well y'all can see that. The sun just came out, it probably made it hard to see, but essentially you can adjust the rear sight up, down, left, and right to help sight in your rifle, which is what I'm gonna attempt to do with my 40 rounds that I bought just earlier. I have a sight down range, so after I break apart this rifle for y'all, I'll go do some shooting and see if we can't sight it in. So that segues nicely into the next section that I'm hoping to cover here, which is a field strip. A field strip is what you do when you're hoping to clean the rifle. So before you do a field strip, there's a couple things you want to make sure of. You want to make sure the magazine is out of the rifle. There's nothing in the chamber. I can see there's nothing in the chamber. Your gun's on safe. The gun is on safe. And now we want to depress the paddle and send the bolt forward. At this point, we're all set to tear down our rifle. So the first step in a field strip of the rifle is there is the takedown pin and the pivot pin. And these 2 pins are going to have to depress like so. I'm going to depress the takedown pin first. And you pull it out this side, and now it pivots like this. That's why this is called the pivot pin, because it allows the upper receiver and the lower receiver to pivot on one another. At this point, you can see the trigger assembly, you can see the bolt assembly right up in the upper receiver, and importantly, you can see the buffer and the buffer tube and the buffer spring eventually when I take that out. So at this point, I'm going to take out the pivot pin. So just like before when I did the takedown pin, we're going to depress that pivot pin, and that lets you pull up on it. And now we have an upper receiver and a lower receiver. At this point, I'm going to place the upper receiver to the side and focus on the lower receiver. There's a little knob right down here that keeps the buffer and the buffer spring in the buffer tube. So I'm going to press down on that knob and lift up on the full assembly, and that takes the buffer spring and the buffer out of the buffer tube of the lower receiver. This is the spring I was talking about earlier that pushes the bolt forward and chambers around into the chamber. To put it back, really simple. You just line up the rear of the spring in the buffer tube and push it back in. Push the buffer until it goes behind that knob, and it'll stay there. When you're field stripping, this is as much as we learned how to field strip your lower receiver. You can field strip more into the trigger and stuff. We were never taught that. So at this point, you have your upper receiver. Your upper receiver is a little more complicated, but what we're going to start focusing on first is the charging handle. So we're going to take our charging handle and pull it and our bolt out. At this point, you have the bolt, you have the bolt and you have the charging handle. And the rest of the upper receiver. You put the rest of the upper receiver to the side, take your charging handle, put that to the side, and now you're left with the bolt. When you're trying to take down your bolt, the very first pin we're going to want to take out is called the firing pin retaining pin right here. It helps if you have longer fingernails, but you can get in there, and I do not have long fingernails. Take that pin out, set it somewhere you're not going to lose it. That's a really easy pin to lose. And now your firing pin, that little silver disc right there, falls out. Now this firing pin is what strikes the primer on a cartridge. As you can see, mine's a little dirty. Me and a buddy just shot 40 rounds at the long range earlier, and I've yet to clean it. My manual the rifle came with says, hey, clean your rifle every 10,000 rounds or every year, whichever comes first. I was always taught to clean it every time you fire it, so I guess that's up to you, but at the very least clean it annually. So once you have the firing pin retaining pin out and you have the firing pin out, the next thing you want to do is rotate your bolt. This is the actual bolt. This is all the bolt carrier, the bolt assembly, sorry. So now you want to take out the bolt. You do that by twisting it, taking your bolt cam pin, turning it 90 degrees so that it looks like this. Usually it looks like this. You're going to push your bolt cam pin 90 degrees and lift it out and set that down. And now you can take your bolt out of the bolt assembly. At this point, there's more you can do with the bolt. This is all we were taught to do. This is how we field stripped M4s in basic. So we don't tear it down any more than this. We were taught it was super complex and you need more tools and blah, blah, blah. So we didn't do that. And because of that, that's all I'm going to do too. At this point, there's a couple important things to note. So at this point, we can put it all back together. So there's a couple important things to note here. On your bolt, there's a side. You're not going to be able to see this very well. There's a side of this hole. So there's obviously two sides of the hole, right here and right here. This side is flat. It has like flat grooves. I don't really know how to describe it. And this side does not have flat grooves. And when you put the bolt back into the bolt assembly, you're going to want the side that does not have grooves. And you're going to want to line up that hole right there so that you can place the bolt cam pin into the bolt assembly. Twist it 90 degrees again. So now it looks like this. And let me take it out real quick so I can describe a little more detail of why we rotate it. The bolt cam pin has a hole that goes through it. So if it were like this, there is no hole. And the firing pin sits through the bolt cam pin. So if the bolt is like this, the firing pin can't go through it. When the bolt's like this, the firing pin can go through it. So that's why we put the cam pin into the bolt assembly like that and twist it. So now inside the bolt assembly, that hole is open and that allows the firing pin to go back into the bolt assembly. So now once the bolt is like this, you can pull the bolt back out. Instead of like this, it's like this. And now we can take our firing pin, place it into this opening right here, and there you go. Took me a little bit of finagling. Now the firing pin is in there. At this point, the firing pin can still fall out because we haven't put in the firing pin retaining pin. It's just a little cotter pin. So now you put the firing pin retaining pin back in its hole, and boom, we have a fully put back together bolt assembly. This part is my favorite part, but it's also the most difficult, so I'm going to take it step by step. We're going to take our upper receiver and we're going to take our charging handle, and if you look at the charging handle, there's these two divots right here that come out of the charging handle. You can see it's smooth and then boom, divot, and then smooth again. Those 2 divots are going to line up perfectly with 2 inlets right here in the upper receiver. Right at the tip of my finger there are 2 inlets where those 2 grooves are going to fit perfectly inside that divot. I'll try my best to show you guys. Again, this is only a GoPro, so it's a fucking fisheye lens. But we're going to put our charging handle with this prong facing down in the rifle. Like that. That's what I'm talking about. I'll demonstrate that again. Like that. You want the charging handle to fall. Pay attention right here on the gun. You want the charging handle to fall in that slit. This is a very important step that I struggled with a lot at basic when they were first teaching us this, because I was scared to ask questions. A lot of people were struggling with getting the charging handle to cam in that little groove. So you want the charging handle like that. If you're struggling to put your charging handle back and it looks like this, that's not good. Pull it back and boom, it'll fall into place. At this point, once you have the charging handle back in its groove, hold the charging handle with one hand, take your bolt assembly, gas tube down. You have the star facing towards the barrel. Put the gas tube into your charging handle, like so, and let go. That's why it's my favorite part. Now, you're gonna line up the pins with the holes of the upper receiver and push the pins back in. Which sometimes can take some finagling, but that worked pretty well. So now the pins are pushed back in and we're gonna test to make sure it's functioning right, starting by pressing this button, pulling back the charging handle, pushing the charging handle forward until it clicks, and now our bolt is locked backwards and our mag's empty, our chamber is empty. I'm going to depress the paddle. The bolt is forward and we would have chambered around if the magazine was in the rifle. So now, test the safety. Safety is safe. Safe clicks. And now we have a safe, functioning M4. At this point, I'm gonna try to shoot some shots. I have a camera downrange focused on a target I have downrange, so I'm gonna get that rolling and we'll pop off some shots. Now I have my eyes, I have my ears, we have our rifle with the chamber locked open, and we have our 10-round magazine filled with 10 rounds of the Federal 223-556 full metal jackets. So with the bullets faced forward, we're going to put the magazine into the magazine well, tap it, you can see that it's seated. Now I'm going to chamber a round. Now a round is chambered. We still cannot fire the gun because the gun's unsafe. But once I'm ready, I'm going to switch this to fire, aim down range, and shoot at my target. So on that last round, you can tell that it sounded a little different, or maybe you could tell, I'm not too sure. That's because the last round locks back the bolt. So you can see with every other round that happened, the bolt chambered a new round. But with the last round, it knows, so it locks back. At this point, take the magazine out, verify that the chamber is empty, there's no rounds in the chamber, put the rifle back on safe, and now we're good to head down range and look at our target. So here's the target. I was trying my best to aim right at the center, so you can tell with the way that the sights are, we seem to be hitting low and left, Well, that's not a bad grouping. These two, I don't know what I was doing, but that's probably 5 inches at, not sure how long this range is. I'll try to get that info for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 2 shots went somewhere else, but yeah, that ain't too bad. I'll cover these up and we'll load up some more rounds. So now I'm gonna load up some more rounds. I have 7 in now. There's 3 more to go. It's a 10 round mag. So you can tell which way the bolt's supposed to go by the diagram. The bolts are facing that way. The way I like to do it is you take the rear of the cartridge and you put it up just like so, and you literally just roll the round until it clicks, just like that. Take the end of the round, seat it up with the others, and just roll it in. There's other ways people can do it, where some people like to put the rounds here, push, and then slide the round in. You can do that too. That's just the way I prefer to do it. At this point we have 10 rounds in, so I have you faced this way so you can see how the rounds eject. I'm just gonna get my eyes and ears on and we'll throw some more lead down range. Let's go take a look. That one was a little worse in my opinion. I was aiming right at this corner because before I was aiming here and hit here. So I was kind of aiming up here and I hit over here. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 3 of them went somewhere else. I'll adjust my aim next time and see if I can't hit true. Not too bad. I was aiming just about here and it seems to like that a little bit more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Still 2 of them. Oh, right here. 9. I don't know where the 10th one went. This was here before. Not too bad though. It really liked me aiming right around here. Maybe if anything, aiming a little bit further over just to help pull those over a little bit more. This is my last magazine, last 10 rounds. I'm gonna try to use what I've learned here to get as close to that bullseye as I can. Let's go take a look. No, it definitely looks like the mag before did a little better job. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think that was there before. I was trying to aim right about here. Maybe I wasn't. Yeah, I'd say my last mag was definitely a little better than this mag. That was a pretty, if this was not there before, that's definitely not an impressive grouping at such a short distance. I don't know much about sighting in the rifle, so that would help if I knew how to do that for sure. I was just trying to adjust my aim based off of where I saw I was shooting, rather than adjusting the rifle sights. So there's a couple more things I want to stress. This is my rifle case. It's a Pelican rifle case. I'll have it linked in the description below. I have a Otis cleaning kit, which I'll also link down below. An important thing I don't see many YouTubers stress when they're talking about the rifles is how to safely secure them. So this is called a chamber lock. It works by literally putting it into your chamber, out the magazine well, and then securing it, which I can't do with one hand. So that prevents the bolt from closing and chambering around and letting it fire. It physically cannot close because of the chamber lock. I also have a secondary lock. This is just a fortress lock. This is a TSA approved case, but in order for TSA to approve it, you have to have 1, 2, 3, 4 different locks and a chamber lock. To my understanding, I could be wrong, that's what I last heard. This is obviously just so that only people who are supposed to use this firearm are allowed to use this firearm. Chamber lock is locked and secured. box back how I like it. Close it up. And now it's not getting back open. So that's gonna do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I do have kind of a part 2 coming out later. I have a less lethal handgun to show you guys. It's called a Byrna LE Law Enforcement. So stay tuned for that next week. It's not as exciting in my opinion as the M4, but it's still a cool piece of equipment to know about. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you next week.